For almost the entire history of Payday, one figure has remained synonymous with the franchise. Other characters have come and gone, Bo and Ulf Andersons, Goldfarbs, Shogguns, or hell, even Eric Etabari, but one man has been ever present through it all, the face of Overkill Starbeeze, whether he wanted to be or not. Through every great success, unmitigated failure, and controversy, he was the one receiving the plaudits or ridicule, and from next week, that will no longer be the case. Almir Listo is vacating his post of Global Brand Director and part-time Payday 3 Game Director at Starbeeze Entertainment, effective next week. An almost surreal statement, but one that's been undoubtedly brewing in the background for months. But before I get into any of the likely driving factors behind his departure, if you need any more context around his tenure at the company, here it is. Almir joined Overkill back in 2012, working as a producer on Payday the Heist's first and only Wolfpack DLC, a role he retained through the Starbeeze merger in 2013, moving over to work on Payday 2, where his natural charisma and camera presence led to him taking centre stage when it came to any community-facing media the company produced. As Payday 2 grew, so did his influence, as his personal brand developed alongside the game, taking on multiple voice acting roles within it, most prominently as Vlad's alcoholic stepbrother Harudin, getting his own memes in the game, and towards the end of Payday 2's life, even his own mask. This was all whilst effectively being the face of any community-centric publication related to Payday 2, receiving a promotion into the newly created role of Global Brand Director, which saw him overseeing the marketing growth plan, taking a prominent role especially when it came to relationships with other studios and celebrities for key crossovers, most significant of which is obviously with Denison Games and Hotline Miami, a connection he recently drew on again for Jacket's addition to Payday 3. This is just to give you some context to the kind of sway Almir had. I don't doubt for a minute that without the man, we never would have seen what's possibly the best individual piece of post-launch content in the game. Of course, he had his controversies across the years. It was he who was quoted saying, "Shame on you if you thought otherwise," regarding never adding microtransactions, only to be forced to defend the company's decisions to add them a couple of years later. And of course his comments on Always Online and servers not going down will ring out through history as a statement made moments before disaster after the launch of Payday 3. However, I'm always in awe of his stoicism, resilience, and culpability in the face of cascading criticism, taking it as a point of inspiration after my own humble pie eating session following Payday 3 blew me away. He owns his mistakes, and I do have to give him a little leeway, bearing in mind the complicated corporate landscape he's navigating with the publicly traded Starbeeze, especially with characters like Bo in the CEO role. On the other side of the coin, his efforts around the release of Boys in Blue during the content drought that followed, single-handedly streaming every day on his personal channel despite obvious exhaustion, has to be admired. He's lived and breathed Payday for 13 years, and it's been difficult to watch him at times as despair has ramped up around the franchise's future over the past 1.5. It's clear to me that he simply has no desire to sit idly by and watch as the final straw breaks the camel's back. Let's just hope this news doesn't turn out to be that very straw for Payday 3. So he's a man who's given his all and doesn't seem to have anything left to give. Maybe had they found a more Payday-centric CEO like Adolf earlier in the year, things might have ended differently, but it's evident to me that Almir has been resolved to commit to this decision to leave for a long time now. Bearing in mind how long the notice period of an employee who served at the company for over 10 years is, I'd be amazed if this wasn't all signed and sealed months ago. For me, the writing was on the wall back when he started saying exactly what was on his mind live on stream. And you could even see the exasperation bubbling over during his Support the Devs monologue last year. This was a man at the end of his rope, and this decision likely comes after monstrous internal debate, extensive efforts by management to keep him on, and intense discussion as to how they can spin this without a tangible impact on Payday sales. You might have noticed how in the past couple of weeks they've rebranded the Heist with Almir streams to Heist with Devs. This was perfectly timed with Liz's return, but it also has to have been part of the succession plan to keep things ticking over as smoothly as possible. You see, he's simply that important to the franchise. not only for his brazen handling of the Twitter account, which has gained quite some notoriety and traction over the years. Yes, he was Payday Twitter man, that distinct style will be lost alongside him, but also for his more intangible qualities. Let's be honest, second only to probably Dallas, he's been the face of Payday as a franchise for over 12 years. Through the good and the bad, he's been thrust in front of the community to take the plaudits or eat the ridicule. Who else is capable of doing that? What an irreplaceable marketing figure he's been. And for reference, I'm sure management is aware of how potentially poor the optics are for the future of Payday 3 when they've got literal Mr. Payday walking out the door on them. I'm willing to bet they wanted this swept under the rug, and I'm relieved it hasn't been, so people have a chance to celebrate all the good he's done for the series over the years. But it does beg the question, where does this leave the future of the franchise? To be clear, I don't believe the loss of any individual is impactful enough to a franchise of Payday's magnitude to signal its downfall alone. There is still a talented, albeit skeleton-sized crew working on the game, and there's a newfound optimism surrounding the community after the successful landing of Armor 2.0. Although I will also say that if Almir believed in the game's future personally, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, which gives us a bit of damning insight into what things look like on the inside. We also have to question what this means for other Starbeeze and Payday veterans like Martin Verne and Andreas Penninger. Will there be even more churn at the studio, leaving absolutely zero remnants of the team that worked on Payday the Heist and Payday 2? That's all up in the air, and I'll save the speculation for the subreddit. Payday 3 evidently has a future. There's a heist in late development, and I've thus far been impressed by the approach taken by new CEO Adolf Christiansen. I think if it was still Mats at the helm right now, I would be considering hanging up my mask and going full backshots mode. But under this new regime, there is undoubtedly potential for Payday, at least as a franchise, to rise from the ashes of Payday 3. But it certainly won't be the same without Almir helming the community. Perhaps this is an opportunity for the ever-popular Elizabeth and Hauer to take centre stage and drive the game into a new era. At least things are being handed over on what's still a somewhat upward trajectory, following on from Update 14. But that's enough doom and gloom, let's close this video off with what's next for Almir. Beyond some well-deserved time off over the summer, his lips are sealed. It's very clearly his decision to leave at this stage, but I'd be amazed if it was for anything other than a gaming industry role, and I think I've picked up enough from the guy over the years to know that's unlikely to be another corporate giant like EA. I've seen people suggest 10 chambers and in-game studio as the obvious destinations, but I'm not so sure on that one. Not only are there no roles available he'd likely be willing to take on, non-competes do exist within the contracts of high-value employees such as Almir. He's evidently got it all planned out though, and isn't wandering into the wilderness with nothing backing him. Regardless, I wish him the best of luck, and if you want to give him your best wishes, the community team are hosting a 3-hour-long nostalgia stream looking back at his 13 years at the studio on Thursday, 3 PM CEST. Apparently, there'll be some exclusive never-before-seen live-action Sorkor footage there too, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks for watching guys, this was a tough one to make because it all seems so bleak for Payday right now, but I'll let Almir sign it off with a bit of gratitude and optimism. Take care, I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Heisters. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the rest of the team, but given the fact that I'm leaving, from me, I've had such a good time this past decade, 13 and a half years, Heisters, I've worked with you all, making video games together, right? And it's been such a journey, such a roller coaster ride of emotions and good DLC and bad DLC and great updates and bad updates and all that. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank all of you, whether you played Payday last time 5 years ago, whether you booted up Payday 3 yesterday, played Payday 2 on the regular, or you're one of those Payday the Heist hardcore guys. I salute you,